it's kind of this idea that like I would rather pay for someone to learn from someone else's experiences, someone else's challenges, than to go out there and kind of like do it all on my own and make the same mistakes, right? Like I'm wasting my time when I could just, maybe cut down 5 years of learning to just maybe 1 year if I go take someone else's course, if I read someone else's book, right? I'm being more efficient. Welcome back, my lifelong learners, to yet another episode of the Well-Read CEO podcast. If you're new here, this show is committed to sharing how you can endlessly improve yourself through continuous education. But no matter if you're new or if you're old, remember to take what you need and share what inspires from today's episode. Let's get into the show. Welcome back to another episode of the Well-Read CEO podcast. I'm your host, Shanice, and today it's just me and you. Okay, so I wanted to bring in the new year with a personal note just for you to really just kind of set the tone. And today we're talking about something that you've probably asked yourself about. You probably questioned when you kind of heard the name, the Well-Read CEO. If you didn't catch my IG live on this back in like December, maybe early December, maybe you still have this question, but you know what? I'm going to clear that all up right now. And the question that I always get asked sometimes when I pitch or kind of tell people about the podcast or the show is, oh, okay, well, do you give book recommendations? Like, is it a book club? And while I kind of started this podcast kind of with that idea, the more crux of it is really and truly continuous self-improvement through endless learning, So always being a student of life. I said that many, many times on here before. But I am a vehement and adamant believer in being a lifelong learner. So I feel like you can learn definitely in many other ways. It doesn't have to always be through books, which is why you don't see me push books as much, but I definitely have them coming for you. If that's what you want, that's what you're going to get. Okay. Because I'm definitely always reading. I'm looking like at my bookcase, like straight across my room here, and I have a ton of books. So it's okay. Let's just jump right into this content today. And I'm going to give you what you came here for. I'm going to give you some of my favorite self-help books, personal development books, self-improvement books at the moment. And then some that I'm reading and looking forward to for this year. But first, I thought it was funny and interesting, how AI works. Google will just be doing overtime, honey, because like sometimes you can be like just talking about something, right? Maybe you're like, man, I really want some Jordans, and then what happens the next day? All you see is ads for Jordans, right? And you're like, is this a sign that I should get Jordans? And it's like, no. They're tricking you. It's a tactic. Don't do it. But so I usually read like on Google News, like on my homepage every day. And I came across this article by Psychology Today, and they were talking about like the top 12 self-improvement books, right? And some of them on that list, like I've gone through, I've read, of course, and then some of those I'm like, oh, okay, let me add this to my list. But I thought it was interesting when they called out some of the stats for the industry, and I'm like, first of all, I didn't know that self-help was an industry, let alone like kind of a genre of a book. But I mean, I guess it is. I didn't really consider it as an industry because I feel like it's so broad and it's so subjective in terms of what all it encompasses, right? So like some of my books that you see today, you may be like, Shanice, girl, those are more personal finance. And you're right, but that's my self-help, that's where I feel like I need the most, kind of help out, pretty much. So I'm just going to read some stats from this article, some quick clips, because I thought it was like really good. But did you know that the self-help industry is valued at $11 billion? As billion with a B. I'm like, what? But it makes sense though. It's kind of like the fitness industry. People are like, they thrive. Like they really love to get things, that if you say, hey, this is going to make you better, you're going to go up and buy that like tomorrow. Because I'm that type of person. You tell me a book is going to change my life, I'm going to go get that book. But I have a disclaimer later on in the show for that one. But I just thought that was so amazing, that this industry is valued at $11 billion. But it's like, I can honestly see it, I don't know why at first it was just like sticker shock, but I can see it. I can see all the books, all the podcasts, all the TED Talks, everything that you kind of see kind of definitely feeds into that industry and why it has such a great or high valuation. So that's fact number one. Fact number two is, well, critics really believe that its current popularity is part of an all-pervasive neoliberal imperative to maximize efficiency. I thought that was really interesting because one of the things that I hear a lot lately is, people, and I hear it a lot in terms of people buying courses, right? And being, I guess, a course junkie. But it's kind of this idea that, like, I would rather pay for someone to learn from someone else's experiences, someone else's challenges, than to go out there and kind of like do it all on my own and make the same mistakes, right? Like, I'm wasting my time when I could just, maybe cut down 5 years of learning to just maybe 1 year if I go take someone else's course, if I read someone else's book, right? I'm being more efficient. And I was like, I can see that one too, and it's 100% true, you know? So we got valuation, we got efficiency within the self-help industry, kind of like that arena. And then kind of last point here that I thought was like really interesting was just really talking about how self-help books can help you out or help you become better, not only in a competitive manner, but also in an ethical sense. And I thought that piece was interesting too, because a lot of time I feel that self-help books can get a bad rap because, which is true, which is the other point, that disclaimer that I told you guys I'm gonna drop, and I'll just drop it here. But self-help books won't help you. Like, they won't do the work for you. You got to put in the work yourself. And a lot of times I feel like people can say that self-help books are very like they're crutches, like they're for lazy people. And it's like, that can be true if you just read the book and like you just set it aside, or maybe you just get through the first page and then you set it aside and you just kind of hope to have success and greatness come over your life through osmosis, right? I absolutely get that. I understand that. But I really, really love that they pointed out the ethical part of it, because I feel like when you're going through this journey and like reading these books and, learning from other people's experiences and getting front row seat to their journey, to wherever they are in life, whatever that kind of pivotal moment was, right? It really kind of rewires your brain in terms of the way that you think personally, right? It really points out some things and makes you uncover maybe some unconscious biases or some areas of weakness that you didn't acknowledge before, or maybe you didn't really recognize were actually areas of weakness before. So I just thought that was a really cool point too. But Spy Psychology Today is an article out there. I'll maybe try to link it in the show notes if you want to go out and read like the full article, but it's really great. And I thought that was a perfect way to start off this new year. I know for me, one of my goals I put on my big vision board was to definitely read a book a month. And that's doable. That's 100% doable. And I am holding myself to it. So I'll be sharing, kind of those books that I'm reading. I also just joined like another like mentorship and everything like that. So we're kind of reading books every month too. So I'll kind of share with you guys the ones that I love and kind of my feedback on those. I also have a reel coming out too, because it was just so funny to me how many people like inboxed me and messaged me about like, readings and stuff like that. But it's totally understandable, like I said. But now the show is not just about, a personal book club or anything like that. While I do share that here, it is definitely more so stressing that continuous lifelong learning, and that kind of leading to your endless self-improvement in your personal work. So don't forget, the main part of that is you have to do the work after you read these books. Dreams don't work unless you do. I posted that the other day. If you didn't see it, go back in my stories, and actually you can like the take highlight on my page, on my IG page, and you'll see it there. But let's get into today's show. Some of my favorite self-help books right now and what I'm reading for the new year. So let's get into it. Let's see. So this is a book. This one is called The War at Work by Seth Madison and Joshua Metcalf. So I got this book for free actually at a conference that I went to like back in college. I never read the thing. I never picked it up once in college. I don't know what made me start reading it like after I graduated, but I guess I was like on this kick of just wanting to read books. So I started finally reading it, and it's a really good book. If you kind of see, I have post-its in it, and like I have a ton of like highlights in it. Like I highlight all of my books, so if you ever want to borrow a book from me, just know that it's gonna be well worn out. But yeah, so he takes you on this journey, right, of him and like this executive position at work and things like that, and kind of the challenges that he goes through. It's kind of like a flashback actually, because a pivotal moment like happens in the book, and like everything else is kind of like recounting that pivotal moment, like once he's in, I guess, therapy or like a retreat or whatever, to like help it, or help work through like some of those issues. But he really goes through like this hierarchy of like networks, and then also the unwritten rules of the workplace. And I thought it was so like on point. This book was like written, I think, back in 2005, but it was so crazy to see, that like I think now in the workplace people are putting out there that this age of, what do they call it, like resignation, I think it is, like people leaving their jobs, like it's new. I'm like, that's not new. Like this book is telling you like all of his sentiments and things like that people are feeling back in the early 2000s. And I was like, back then, honey, I thought they were like job till I die. But no, he really goes through some amazing, amazing things. And like now that we're, into 2022, I'm like, I can see all of these tactics and all of these like unwritten rules on full display, right? I guess now too, since I'm in full time, like I can definitely see it. But I thought it was a really great read in terms of, I think not settling. It gives you a great kind of way to work through some of those unwritten rules, and also like what to kind of counteract them with, It goes through how a lot of times some of your older colleagues and older workers, or um, yes, colleagues, how they have this idea and kind of stigma of, like, not really stigma, but just kind of idea of just, working up the ladder, right? Climbing the corporate ladder, having a chain of command. But now more so, the age of workers and employees that are coming into the workforce are more so all about connecting and collaborating in networks, right? How it doesn't matter if you're young or if you're old, if I'm younger than you and I come on and I have a solution for the problem, and you've been here 2 years and you have been able to figure out the solution to the problem. Like it kind of talks through that dichotomy, and the both sides. I'm like, that's so freaking amazing, So I think this one has been really good in terms of helping me, I would say, navigate my first full-time job, and kind of how to have like those tough conversations, because a lot of times it can be really hard to just be like, you know what, I'm leaving because I don't feel valued here. I'm leaving because I don't feel like I feel heard here. Um, so it really kind of talks you through like how to get through that as well. So I'll try to link them all below too. I think you can get this one on Amazon. But it's a really great read. If I would say it's even good for people outside the workplace. I feel like it just talks about people relationships anyway, people management anyhow. So even if you're not working like a 9 to 5 for someone else right now, even if you're in business for yourself, um, if you have customers, this can be very good for you to also read and get through as well. So another book that I kind of read right after that one, because I was getting ready to start like my first big girl job, was The First 90 Days by Michael D. Watkins. So this one here, I think I got this one for free too. I got this one at an internship that I did in college as well. And we read this book like during our internship, and it was kind of funny because like we were only on the job for like 90 days. So it was kind of like I couldn't really see this through. But this one it's by like the Harvard Business Review Press. But it's like deemed as the onboarding Bible. And honestly, I can probably see it, because this one too, it gives you like charts and like graphs of like things to do, like milestones to hit at like each week or each month, like in your job, like in that new role that you have. And maybe it's not like you switching companies, maybe it's you being promoted to maybe a manager level or an executive level. So it really goes through all of that. This one was really helpful in terms of knowing like what conversations to have, what should you be talking about when you get in these roles, when you get in these positions, when you get with these companies, what is kind of expected of you. And I would say it's a good blanket kind of generalization for almost any job or in any industry really. Um, because it more so really delves into like how you can become your best in that role, in that position, right? So it goes through a lot of showing up authentically, but also, speaking fearlessly and having those conversations like with your manager, and also a little bit of etiquette in terms of like emailing and things like that. Um, so yeah, that's what I really liked about this one, because this one I feel like was more tactical. Whereas the war at work was more so storytelling, but I felt this one was definitely giving me that, that connection piece, that piece to be like, wow, like I understand this, I get this, that really made me want to dive into it. And then this one here was like, boom, here's what you need to do. Here's the steps that you need to follow. Here's how you get out of that funk, basically, or how you maybe avoid that funk, right? So this one was definitely a pretty good read. This one is definitely a little bit more dense than the first one, but I think it's still not that bad. Like I said, I'm a type of person where I like to have a roadmap. I like to have a plan, and I think that this book here is definitely going to give you that if that's what you're looking for too. So yeah. So this one too, I don't feel it's as good for maybe the entrepreneur, because again, it does talk about like that corporate space. However, if you have employees under you already, and maybe you're looking to build a stronger team, or maybe you're looking to like hire better people, this could probably be good too in terms of like what to look for in a candidate, because it talks about that infancy stage and those entry level like partners and stuff like that, and maybe too like how you can help build your team. So I think this one probably be good for that. My next one, this is more personal finance, but this one is The 10 Pillars of Wealth by Alex Becker. This is the mindsets of the world's richest people. So I really love this book because, like I said, it really talks about like, the mindsets of some of these rich and wealthy people, like uber wealthy people, and I think that it's just so pivotal, like in that sense. I am an adamant believer too, in terms of whatever you want to like see, whatever change you want to like see happen in your life, it all starts right here in your mindset, like with your mind. Nothing else is gonna come good from that, or come good out of the situation, no matter how much you learn, no matter how um, many skills you add to your resume. If your mindset is off, if it's in a negative place, if it's in an alternate place than where the path you're trying to go down, it's not going to work, right? So this one really starts at the root of it all. Um, it also kind of dives into different ways that you can have a profitable business, right? Um, and that's what everyone wants at the end of the day, right? If you get into business with yourself or for yourself, you're going to want to quickly find a way to make it profitable. So the back of the book definitely goes into kind of ways to make that happen. It talks about, cash flowing businesses, low investment, like in high investment businesses, things like that, the benefits and stuff like that. This one was also really good because I think it validated or it confirmed a business venture that I wanted to start. And it was just like, okay, confirmation, like I really love that. But yeah, this one here is good for getting yourself in the right mindset, in the right space. Like the 10 pillars are more so like kind of like those points that you're like, okay, this is what I'm going to go back to. And one of them is like, just getting out there, just getting started, stuff like that, knowing that what you have to offer or what you have to, provide is top notch, right? Not letting anyone else kind of set you like, tell you different, tell you otherwise, basically. So whether you're looking for something for mindset, this is your thing. Then my next one that kind of I read after that one was Sell or Be Sold by Grant Cardone. This book, so it says how to get your way in business and in life. I was gonna say that, like, it's definitely more so, it's not just business related, it's also, more so personal in your development, and your self-improvement as well. Because no matter if you're in business for someone else, and this is the thing that I say in terms of like self-help books, like it's not just always about entrepreneurship, it's not just always about starting a business, it's how you relate and kind of talk to other people. Every time like I'm in a group setting or just really any talking to people in general, I always get, hey, Shanice, you're so personable, or you're so, easy to talk to. That's because I feel like I've really mastered people management, and kind of reading the room and just understanding what makes people tick. Yes, we're all different. Yes, we're all individual, but I feel there are some basic principles to just having a conversation and being kind of um, that arbitrator in situations as well. So um, that's why I will always have a self-help book by my side. But yeah, so this one here, it's a little bit more harsh. It's gonna be like a kick in the butt. I'm not gonna lie, but it also has some really, really great. I think this one just kind of lays out of a roadmap for you as well. Um, but I say it's a little bit more harsh because it kind of calls you out on your crap. There's also a little bit of cursing in there, but if you don't mind that, then it's okay. But yeah. Um, oh, this one too. Another thing that it really helps with is, so this one I said helps with mindset. This one really reinforces that in terms of like you knowing in your heart, like deep down, like with every fiber of your being, that like you are the ish. Like no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You are going to go forward with your offer, your product, your service, whatever it is, and you're holding no bars back. You're jumping all into it. And that is another one of my things. I'm like, go all in, like whatever it is, commit everything that you have to it, and like watch and see your success like 6 months later, a year later, 2 years later. Don't half-ass it. Just go all in, and really you'll be so amazed with the results that you have afterwards. So I think that one is really good in terms of driving that home and driving that purpose and why you need to do that. It also kind of talks about um I'm going to say it really quickly, maybe a spoiler, not really a spoiler, but one of the stories that he shared in here that was really pivotal to me and just kind of stuck out to me was in terms of like setting your prices, right? So a lot of times, people say, "Oh, charge your worth, charge your work." Yesterday's price is not today's price. And this one I feel really goes into that and really drives that home. Um, he talks about having this conference, I think in like Illinois or something like that, and charging people I think like $10 a ticket, to come and hear him speak, right? And how he talks about how like no one came, how they promoted this for like months and like no one came, right? And this was like with I guess a marketing manager, a marketing team member that he was trying out. But he went back to like his old method of doing it, right? Of charging people like hundreds of dollars like for the tickets, and it was sold out within like maybe a week or two or something like that. And I thought that was so pivotal and so amazing because it really hones in on like if you don't know your worth and if you don't translate your worth, like no one else is gonna see that. Like you really have to charge what you feel is like you're valuable and what you feel the quality of your content is, right? Don't just be out here raising your prices, just raise your price. Definitely make sure that what you're offering is going to accentuate that nicely and compensate that well. So I thought it was a really great point in terms of just taking a step back and realizing that if you're charging too little, that doesn't necessarily mean that people are going to flock to you. And if you're charging too much, that doesn't necessarily mean that people are going to flock to you, right? You have to go back to the drawing board and kind of do that time like money analysis, dollars spent, dollars, whatever it is, to kind of make sure that you are held at that as a credible kind of source, as a credible kind of teacher and guide in that area. And it kind of correlates with your price. I like to say, like, people, if I kind of trust you and I find you credible, trustworthy, you're gonna probably spend any amount of money. Like you're gonna go over a cliff for that person, that mentor, that coach. But once you start to doubt like yourself and your worth and what you have to offer, it's going to spread like a wildfire, and like everyone else is gonna see that as well. And they're gonna be like, well, why should I go to you? Are you really gonna give me that much value for $10? I don't know. It's a crazy phenomenon, but it is true. Give it a try if you're struggling to, ump your sales or, your conversion rate, something like that. Just give it a try. after you read this book. So yeah. And then kind of my last book in terms of that I've gotten through already. I read these in 2021. This one is more so like a feel good book. So disclaimer, I read like all these books and they seem like heavy and dense, right? I like to break it up a little bit, break up some of the monotony and read more of a memoir or an autobiography or just something a little bit more positive or upbeat. I don't really read fiction books anymore, but I really read more memoirs and autobiographies, like I said, kind of said before. So, of course, I read Becoming. I finally finished this book because I got this book again back in college. Um, and I got it like from a job that I worked. It's like, actually, no, it was from like a recruitment team, and they kind of gave it to us. It's like, end of the year celebration. Um, but the kind of the lead of that group, he gave like all of the kind of executive team members on board like this book to read, and I just never got through it. But I finally decided to pick it up and actually read all of it, and I absolutely loved it. I think this is probably the fastest book that I read because it was just so good. It's a really good read. I really think that it's good in terms of talking through how to kind of bounce back in times of adversity, but also seeing the bigger picture and the bigger why of it all in life, um, kind of the big like glitz and glam and kind of having all the lights, camera, being in the popular eye. But then also to see her transition and their transition to just, regular life and kind of a more slow paced life. Like that was an awesome, kind of thing to kind of witness in the book as well. So I said this one is it's a calming read. It's also a nice, putting things into perspective read, if that makes sense. But yeah, so I read this one like after those to kind of break up some monotony and read something a little bit more lighthearted. So those are all five. Yeah, those are five of my top reads from 2021 and things I kind of just wanted to share with you guys. But I can't leave you just yet. I can't leave you like that. I'm also going to share two that I am currently reading for 2022. So the first one here, she's thick. This one is The 4 Hour Work Week by Timothy Ferriss. I've talked about this book in other podcasts. If you haven't seen already, I don't know if I'll ever stop raving about this book because I still have a little bit more to go. I have like this much left to go. Let me see. I have like that much left to go. Okay, there we go. But anywho, so this one I love because remember I kind of said the two other books were kind of roadmaps. This one here is the whole to-do list. Like you can read this book if you're starting a business, if you're, actually in like your corporate workspace, corporate job, and like that that's not where you want to be long term. If you just want to take advantage of a more non-location based, I think it's what you call it, remote kind of work. Maybe you want to take more advantage of remote work and kind of having the flexibility. This is a great all in all to-do list, honestly. I love this book and I always recommend it to people because I really love the vulnerability and like transparency from Tim in this book, and also from like others because he has like his blog posts and like where people have commented different things, but he talks through you like, hey, these are the specific resources, these are specific websites, these are specific people like you should reach out to. Like I think there's a huge section on there like virtual assistants, right, and like where to go. It gives you greater direction outside of just the regular Fiverr and Upwork that you kind of hear people talk through, but he gives you some great offshore resources as well as onshore if you're kind of in the US as well. He talks you through the good, the bad, the ugly of it all, outsourcing, staying in-house, building a team, building and starting multiple brands, and getting distribution centers, film centers, like the whole nine. It's so amazing. That's what I'm saying. Like if you want to start a business or if you want to have more like freedom in your work life, prioritizing, because we don't believe in balance here, but prioritizing the two, this is a great book to just go through. Someone said that when I was reading the comments, they said they got through it in like a weekend, and I'm like, I don't know. Maybe so. Maybe you can get through it in like one sitting, but it's really good, honestly. So that one I will finish reading probably this month. I think this is on my list to read this month. So I'll finish that one, and then maybe I'll come back for like a final review. I don't think it'll be any different though, because honestly, like, how much better could it get? How much worse could it get? Okay. And the last book that I have here is Crushing It in Apartments and Commercial Real Estate by Brian Murray. So this one I got from another podcast. It's called the Bigger Pockets Podcast. And if you don't know, they talk about all things real estate and real estate investing. If you talk to me for any length of time, you know that real estate investing is very high on my to-do list of things, that I want to accomplish. If you also don't know, little known fact, I am actually a licensed real estate agent here in the state of Georgia. So yeah, so this is a one that I wanted to pick up for sure, just because I am looking more into this. I am saving more to invest in real estate. And I wanted to kind of have a more passive way of income. So having kind of those residential kind of apartments that I can rent out and having that income every month was kind of the way to go for me. However, I wasn't very interested in the duplex or triplex space just because of, the potential of like just having to stay on one side of it or kind of house hack it. I didn't really feel entirely comfortable with that. So I was like, you know what? Let's just do apartments and commercial real estate, which can honestly be a lot more affordable than you probably think. People think that it's really expensive, and it definitely is, but there are a lot of programs and loans out there to make it more affordable. So this is one that I'll probably get through. I'm planning to get through by February, so I'll keep you guys updated on this one. And I'll also, again, like I said, I'll drop the links for all of the books down below so that you can go check them out if you want to read them as well. And maybe let me know like some of your favorites, and because I'm always looking to kind of add to my list of things to read, and have a good bank of things that I can go out and get next. So that's really all for today's episode, everyone. I hope that you had a great and restful holiday season and that you are geared up and ready to really crush it these first 90 days of 2022. I say 90 days because of another kind of podcast. I'll kind of put it here, the Self-Talk podcast. Kind of one of the hosts, Darnell Self, like he goes live all the time, and he's talking about, how if you just commit to doing whatever you said that you wanted to do in almost 22, commit to doing it for the first 90 days, like, or for just 90 days, right? It really condenses that period down, right? And it forces you to stick with that habit, right? You're building that muscle, you're building that, discipline, that dedication, all of it right now, because it's so easy for everyone to fall off by the time February hits, right? Everybody's super excited here in January, but once we hit February, and the gyms are like really full right now, right? You can see this is like a prime example. The gyms are really full right now, right? But I give it until like February 1st, and it's going to be like a ghost town. Why? Because most people have fallen off. They've kind of given up. They kind of lost that motivation, that drive. So that's what this kind of like 90-day condensed period is meant to do. Because yes, people say it takes 21 days to build a habit. But if you're doing something for 90 days, if you're committing to it for 90 days, you know how much harder it is for you to like just stop and like let it go, after that. Because honestly, you're going to see so much progress and so much growth within yourself. And you're like, man, I really want to keep it up. So that's what I'm challenging myself. I'm starting today. So today, January 2nd, when this episode is going to be released, I'm actually starting my 90 days. And I will update you guys. I'll keep you updated because one of my things on there to go live at least once a week. So join me on my Instagram. I will definitely always drop the link down below, but it's at the Well-Read CEO. And let's commit to greatness. Just give it your all, show up every day, and you're gonna reap the benefits and reap the rewards at the end of the year, or maybe even sooner than that. You never know. But that's all I have for today, everyone. I hope you have a great one, and I will see you in the next one.